Okie dokie. Yeah, there you are, Jennifer. My friend Jennifer King. Hi, honey.
Hi, how are you?
Good. And how are you?
Good. The sun is out today. It's been rainy here and the sun is out, so I am happy.
You know, North Carolina, people get confused about that weather. They think, oh, it's south, it's gorgeous all the time.
No. Well, we've been exceptionally rainy for the last, 3 years now. It's been really unusually wet. So
that is exactly when I was down there. It was 3 years ago when I lived in Asheville, and it was sleety cold, slushy, you know, and then spring rain, like raindrops like this big.
Oh yeah. Has it been that long? Oh my God.
It has. Yeah. So yeah, we've been, you know, and I mean, we're not time sensitive here, but we've been in COVID for 16, 17 months now. We've been in lockdown.
That's true.
So let's talk about, because that's what we were saying right before we came on is, we got to call them COVID puppies at this point. There are a lot of puppies new in the home. There's a lot of puppies that, and I'm so happy for that. But let's talk about that a little bit.
I am honestly working with more puppies right now than I normally do in probably an entire year. It's crazy. And what I mean by that is, it's not just puppy classes, it is puppy issues and puppy problems and adolescent problems. But in all seriousness, I guess the majority of the dogs that I see are at least adolescent or adult. But I have so many puppies right now, so many, in fact, that I'm actually offering puppy socials and things on my own property in my own backyard, because there's such a need for dogs to get out in the world and for the owners to feel like they can do that in a safe way. And I've never, ever even considered doing that before because it's never been a need.
There you go. We're all thinking outside the box right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's things I've never, we've never had a problem getting our puppies out and about and taking them to friends' houses and taking them to the park and taking them downtown. And, this last year and a half, people have been, locked in their houses and they've not taken their dogs anywhere.
So are you saying, are you calling puppies like in an age specific area or activity and brain? It's kind of like, I can be a kindergartner or I can be a third grader in kindergarten. So, right.
Actually, that's a good point, because in the past, I have not thought about that until you just asked me that question. In the past, I would mean puppy as 8 weeks, 9 weeks, whenever you get them, up till about 6 months. But now that you put it that way, I'm actually working with a lot of adolescent dogs that are between 6 months and a year that still have a very puppy-like brain to them and just have missed so many things that previous puppies had gotten with no problem. So that is a good point. I hadn't even thought about that.
So kind of they get points from each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And now that we're beginning to open up a little bit and people are beginning to get out, people are still conservative and they would rather meet in small groups somewhere rather than go to a big dog park or go out into the pet store with everybody around. And so I guess coming up with something where you can get your dog out and you can get them exposed to other dogs and other people and other places in a safe way that you can relax a little bit.
Well, let's talk about this a little bit. Meeting on leash. I know that's different than in your backyard or in Petco, etc. But when we're meeting on leash, especially during walks, because we want everybody to get out there and let their dogs, as our friend Libby Kowalczyk from Rancho Coastal says, let them smell. They live through their noses, and we don't give them enough chance to just. So they think every time we tug on the leash, we're going to have to leave a really good smell that we quite haven't figured out the chocolate from vanilla. And so with the meeting on leash, give us a couple of different ways to do it, because not every dog is the same. Not every owner is going to be the same. So what are some ideas?
Okay, so this is where every as you know, you talk to a lot of us trainers and different dog people, and we all have different theories and we all have different ways of doing things. And I might surprise a few of you, because my theory is, well, first of all, you do have to teach your dog, and puppies are still learning. You've got to teach a dog, whether it's an adult or a puppy, how to behave on leash. How do I behave on leash when we're walking? How long am I allowed to sniff? That's a whole nother conversation we could go into. I teach a couple of different types of walks. But when it comes to greeting on leash, I personally am not a big fan of that unless you are willing to bet $1,000 that my dog is going to handle this greeting well, the other dog is going to handle this greeting well, and everybody's going to come out smelling like roses. And how often does that happen?
Exactly. And what's the worst thing we can hear? I'm really good with dogs.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and then the first thing they do is go over the top of the head. So, yeah. So tell us a little bit more on that. Maybe how we can protect our dogs when meeting on leash and just go, you know, can we wait a minute or two?
Yeah, so I do like to teach my dogs how to greet people on leash. I actually like to teach dogs to avoid other dogs on leash. But when it comes to people, the first thing you want to do is kind of start working with your dog on a leash about how do we do this, you and me. Because if you add a bunch of people in and stuff going on, they're going to have a hard time focusing on you. And we can actually teach our puppies. This has been an interesting conversation in the training world. We were so focused on socializing our dogs and getting them out and about and taking them everywhere and letting them just do whatever. And we kind of disappeared on the other end of the leash. Like we just weren't even there. And then when the dogs got older and stronger and bigger, we trainers would get this phone call like, my dog pulls me everywhere. He doesn't pay attention to me on the leash. He doesn't even know I'm there. Because as a puppy, that's what you taught him to do.
All right, tell us more. Get down into like a 1, 2, 3.
So we really need to be careful about, first of all, work with a leash and your dog in your backyard. Don't ask them to learn how to handle this equipment and how to handle this whole thing out at a park where there's a lot of stuff going on and they're just so overwhelmed. So one step at a time. Get your dog used to the harness you're going to walk them on. Get your dog used to the leash. Then get your dog used to the leash attached to the harness and you holding on to it, because all of that is a lesson. And if you stick all that together in the middle of the park or even the middle of your street, walking down in the middle of your neighborhood, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
So one step at a time. What is the first thing you want to teach them? Harness. What's the second thing you want to teach them? Leash. What's the third thing you want to teach them? I'm going to hold on to the leash. And how does that work? And it gets more complicated than I handle every dog differently. You know that about me. But the main thing is, one thing that a lot of us trainers realize is that we were so focused on socializing our dog, we would put them in situations and they were so at the end of the leash exploring the world, completely ignoring us, unable to pay attention to us. And when they got older, that was a problem, but we had taught them that. We had set up that whole situation. And now we've got to go back when that dog is 9 months, a year old and go, you know, all that stuff you did before, we can't do that anymore. We got to do it differently. Well, that's a lot.
Can we break that down into, like, is the first third of a walk one thing and then the second third another thing? Or is it like one walk is this, and then the next walk is that? You know, I'm an old horse trainer, so that's what we used to do with the horses. Like if we had, you know, the stallions, literally, if they were hooked up on their halter on one side, that meant we were going to go for a ride. If they were hooked up on the other side, that meant they were going to go breed. 2 different horses in one. So is there something?
Okay, that's very interesting, because you're kind of alluding to what you're getting into what I alluded to earlier, which is I teach my dogs a different type of walk. There's one walk. Yeah, so there's one walk, and you'll hear this term if you Google it. There's a lot of trainers that call it different things. It's a freedom walk or a decompression walk.
Oh, nice to hear. Whoa. Okay, freedom walk or decompression.
Decompression walk.
Wow.
And you'll hear that in different terms. I think Hannah Brannigan calls it a decompression walk, and I call it a freedom walk, because it's what you're doing in that style of walk is, in my opinion, you're teaching the very basic skills of leash work. And I use a long leash for this. I use usually a 10 or a 15-foot leash, so a very long leash. because I'm usually working with a new dog or a puppy, and they're just getting the whole concept of this whole leash thing, and they're everywhere. And they want to smell, and they want to go read the P mail over there, and go see what that bird's doing over there, and go dig in the leaves over there. But you want them to remember that you are there. Mm-hmm. And you want them to learn not to pull you. So the number one complaint that trainers get with on leash is my dog pulls me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A puppy at 10 pounds is very different than that same dog who's now 60 pounds pulling you. So start when they're little, give them a nice long leash, give them a lot of freedom, but when they hit the end of that leash and that pressure hits them, don't move. Do not take one step in that direction. They have 10 or 15 feet. All they have to do is change directions, make a different decision. And you've given them so much leash to be able to do that, that you're teaching them. It really does not take long to teach a dog not to pull on a leash when they have a lot of freedom and they have a lot of choices. If you're trying to, in the beginning, yes. But if you put that same dog on a 6-foot or a 4-foot leash, there is no, you're already well within their personal space bubble, and they're automatically like, can you give me a second, give me some space? And they're already pulling on you. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I have found it, and I've only been doing this for a year or so, but it has dramatically changed how quickly I can teach even a dog to walk right next to me and not pull. Because you've got to break leash work down into tiny little sections. And the first lesson is when you feel pressure, whether the leash is attached in the front or in the back or wherever, when you feel pressure, don't keep pulling me because I'm not moving. I'm not going anywhere.
Can you talk about that for a second? Hook on the top or hook in front. And then when you hook in front, is it stationary at the chest, or is it the type that moves from right chest to left chest as the leash moves? With the
everybody's got their favorites, and my opinion is you've got to fit the dog properly. I'm a lot less likely to tell you to go buy a particular brand, but I will educate you on how to fit your dog properly. So you want, if it's a front clip or any harness, you want the harness to fit off the neck, down on the chest, so that you're not putting pressure on the neck. And as far as the different types, everything is going to move a little bit, because like even our clothing is going to move if there's pressure on it. But you do want leashes that don't slide around, or harnesses that don't slide around so much that they come down over the shoulder, and now your dog can't walk properly. So you want to really be careful about that. If you use a front clip, any kind of them, but particularly when they're clipped on the front, if it doesn't fit nice and snug, then you're going to pull it down off a shoulder, and now the dog can't walk correctly.
Well, and they're all, it can rub and cause pain, and also and they can slip out of it. I know little guys, they must be double jointed at the elbow because they can slip out in anything. So yeah,
if it slips down and then the dog happens to put on the brakes and back up, they will quickly realize, all I got to do is move, and it's going to come right off. So there's a lot of reasons you want to be careful, but any piece of equipment, I always tell people, your equipment is only there to keep you and your dog safe, because it isn't going to teach your dog what you want the dog to learn. That's why, for example, when I'm on this, we're having this freedom walk, and I'm giving my dog all of these choices, and they can sniff, and they can go this way, and they can go that way. All I'm teaching them is that when you reach the end of that leash, make a different decision. Don't keep pulling that way. And then I can guide them. So I actually teach them 2 things in those first sessions on that really long leash. One is I'm not moving if you pull me. The other is I set the boundary. So if I stop moving and I stop walking in that direction, you need to make another choice and change direction. So it makes it easy for them to figure that out, because they have so much room to make so many choices.
with a long leash.
With a nice long leash. Now, obviously, you're not going to do this down the side of the road where, you know, you're walking on a main road, or you're at the park and you're walking on these little narrow trails. So not everybody is able to do that. I realize that. But when you can find a place where you can give your dog a lot of freedom, there's a lot of things they need to learn to handle being on leash. And you need to pick one lesson at a time.
Exactly. And I think you could start in your own living room, like you said, or start in your own backyard. So we've got a lot of inclement weather, or people who, you know, aren't as active getting out. So yeah, start. That's what I always say. Again, going back to the horses, if we don't have it in the stall, we don't have it on the road. So, you know, yeah. And the other thing is, we used to talk about groundwork, the groundwork, you know, laying the groundwork. So puppies, singleness of purpose. I know there's not a single purpose that they have in their life. It's everything, but it is exploring their environments. It's staying safe. It's socializing. What is their purpose as puppies? You know, how can we facilitate that? Help them out.
Well, I think we have such an explosion of puppies during the pandemic because we have a lot of interesting things going on. Humans needed more companionship during this pandemic, and humans wanted to help. They wanted to give these dogs homes. They wanted to help these dogs, you know, belong somewhere. So it's really neat to see what happened during this year. But yeah, I've also, it's a double-edged sword, because some of the clients I have, some of the challenges that we're running into are because these puppies, particularly the last year and a half, did not have the same kind of life as our previous puppies did. Okay. I have more puppies that have some anxiety issues or fear issues. And I also believe that they might have taken that on from the environment that we were in. We were all stressed out this past year and a half. We were all more worried than normal, you know, and our animals take that on. So I really work hard with people, with puppies, teach them their lessons by playing games. You know, there's a lot that you can teach a dog. You can teach a dog how to treat you. You can teach a dog self-control. You can teach a dog all kinds of things by how you play with them every single day.
So here's something that I have taught several dogs: door dashing. You know, there's a knock on the door. I only have to open the door this much, but I have, you know, Rotties and Shepherds, and, you know, I am absolutely knocked out of the way. It's like, who is he? And I've got to circle around the back of them, right? UPS man, whoever, you know. So I'm saying, you know, door dashing, and the last ones that got past me were 3 standard poodles. There was no stopping them. It was in the Sonoran Desert in Phoenix. There was no stopping them. 3 standards, and I am trying to just eke my way through the open door. It did not work. So tell us about door dashing, and give us, you know, what in the world do we do? How do we make something else in the house more interesting than that door after a knock? And again, you know, fun and games. I mean, tell us the door dashing first, please help us.
The door dashing is fun because I'm getting, again, with the puppies that were raised so differently, I'm either getting dogs that run away from the door because they're not used to hearing anybody at the door. We've had a year of nobody comes to the door.
You're right. You are right. Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's true. So today's or younger dogs that, like, you know, if you got your dog in March and he was 3 months old, March of 2020, and nobody came to visit you, and then March of 2021, they hear a knock on the door, they're either going to hightail it to the other end of the house, or they're going to do exactly what you said. Wow, what is that? I'm going that way.
There you go. Okay, all right. So the doorway, the threshold, I mean, pardon the pun there, but, you know, from one trainer to another, the threshold at the door, you know, no matter what side of it that you're on, what can we do? I mean, do we make a different area better, safer, happier? Well, what do we do?
First, you have to figure out, the dog that's under my feet right now that you can't see, he is a golden retriever mix, and he loves to be the greeter. Ever since he was a puppy, he loves people. He loves answering my door. So I had to teach him how to do that. And there's stages that you would go through. But if you have a dog, I call him my butler. I mean, he wants to welcome everybody. Come in, come this way. I love you. But some dogs are terrified at that front door. So that threshold that you're talking about is either the most exciting moment of the visit because, oh my goodness, somebody new is here. Who is it? What is going on? Or it is the scariest time of the visit. Who is that? What are they doing here? Are they going to kill me? What am I supposed to do? Oh my gosh, go away. So first of all, you got to figure out who your dog is. Do they want to be your greeter or are they terrified of that door? So you really cannot come up with your greeting protocol until you figure out, does your dog want to be part of that? Or is that something that they have absolutely no business doing? So that's step number one.
Yeah.
Is fine. So my dog, for example, he loves greeting people. He is my greeter. When he can't meet somebody at the door, he's very unhappy. So I had to teach him how to do that. And there's a number of ways to do that, but you want to figure out how do you want your dog to behave, and then you set up a training plan to get that to work. If your dog, however, is terrified of whoever might be on the other side of that door, and they think that that person's going to come through and kill them, do not ask that dog to answer your door. Take that off their plate. Go put them somewhere else, and then you can teach them how to come in and say hi to the person who's already sitting on the couch quietly.
So you already like to come in, sit quietly. You know, I even don't make any eye contact with the dogs, etc. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. So again, you know, it really sounds like, you know, we need a space that's not absolutely at the door. Okay.
That helps. That helps a lot. If you can, I've had people who put up gates, like they just put up portable gates right in their foyer, so that as you're teaching your dog, so even if your dog is a door dasher and they love the door because it's a moment that they can sneak past and go for a run,
yeah,
you definitely want to come up, or the easiest way to train it is to come up with some kind of a barrier at your door in your foyer while you're teaching the skills to prevent your dog from running out that door and having a big adventure.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Because here it is. So you've got your website, your training practice, your business is called True Connection Canine Education. Those are four massive. Those are four massive words, and you know we could break it down, but it's like, you know, honestly communicating, and not only with the dog but with the people. And figuring out what's their truth. How can we get to them? What is their vocabulary? And, you know, whether it's the dog or the family.
Because my job is not to come in and say, you have to do things this way, because I have to figure out what is going to work for that dog without completely disrupting that family. And why would I ask a person to do something that just isn't realistic in their life? Or why would I ask a dog to do something that is completely against who they are? So, you know, we need to communicate with our clients and the dogs and figure out what works for everybody.
Exactly.
We all have to live in that house.
And I know too that, you know, if there are children in the house, you bring them in on the training protocols. That's huge, etc. I cannot believe this. You will not believe this. We've been going for almost 25 minutes.
Wow, we can always.
You and I know, a cup of coffee and some dessert, and you and I can just take off. So the way that we can get in touch, Jennifer King, the way that we can get in touch is truecanineconnection.com.
trueconnectioncanine.com.
Yeah. Do you do phone consults with people? Are you set up for that, or any kind of Zoom or video or anything that you can help people that are not in your town in North Carolina?
Yes. I offer a brief phone consultation, usually about 20 minutes, to talk to anybody. And then if they aren't in my area, virtual is appropriate for some things. And if it isn't, I will help them find someone closer to their area that they can work with in person. Because some things it's perfectly fine. You can help with a lot of things virtually. And then when it's not appropriate, you know, we in this industry should work together, you know, to find other people who are qualified and educated to help people.
Yes. Fabulous. Oh my God, Jennifer, I can't believe we went this. We've already done this. You and I have worked together a couple of times on a couple of webinars. They've always been a blast. You did the webinar with us at BlackWing Farms. You did, we did that thing with Sherry Woodard for APDT, Association of Professional Dog Trainers. That was a blast, and I'm still in touch with all them. We should do that reunion with, oh my God, Jen Severwood from the prison program, the puppy prison program, as I continue to call it. And yeah, that was a good one. So we should do that again. Maybe I'll try to get a reunion.
We should get together in person. You should host us all at your place.
Oh, well, absolutely. You know, absolutely. Let's just move this pandemic on down out of our way, and we will do that. Jennifer, thank you so much for spending time with us, honey. Thank you.
Anytime.
You got it. TrueConnectionK9.com. Get in touch with Jennifer. She'll answer your questions. Thanks, baby.
Thanks, Meg.